Hey squad, welcome back. As you've heard in the intro, this production right here is something I came up with using the fantastic session players in Logic Pro 11. And in this video, I'm going to break it all down and show you exactly how I came up with this vibe. So it's that time, let's dive in. So as usual, let's introduce the players. First up, we've got our percussionist. Next to take the stage is the Logic Pro drummer. And now coming in with some mellow piano vibes is the Logic Session keyboard player. And now introducing the thunder thumbs of the fantastic Logic Session bass player. And we've got a few additional guest players which come courtesy of Output Arcade, but we'll talk more about them later on. But for now, let me show you where this all started. As you can see at the top of the screen in the chord track, we got 2 bars of G-7 plus 9, followed by 2 bars of C7 9 13. And the progression is played on my very favorite electric piano by Waves, the Electric 88, and it goes something like this. So we're just cycling around 2 chords really, with a 1 bar turnaround near the end of 16 bars. Okay, so in terms of building out the production, the very first layer I added on top of the electric piano was some percussion. And to do so, we went to create new track, session player, drummer. We scroll all the way to the bottom here, and under percussionist, I've gone for my Latin percussionist. I click create. And then we get our percussion dashboard. As far as the preset goes, I went for Como Air. And these are the settings I went for. I switched off the cowbell, the claves, and the triangle in the top layer here. And these are the elements I've gone for down here. But the important thing I need to show you right here is the swing. I've gone for a 63% swing. So let's split this region right here. And in this first section, we're going to have no swing. Then this section, we're going to have our 63% of swing. And listen to the difference this makes in terms of the groove. And just like I've highlighted in the intro, this whole production was inspired by the great Chuck Brown, godfather of the beautiful go-go music from Washington DC. This is a style of music that blew up over here in the UK during the mid-80s, and I've been in love with it ever since. Okay, so next up we've got our Logic drummer. For this one we went once again to Logic Session Player, Drummer, and the one that really worked for me was Funky Songwriter. And of course I set the swing to 63% just like I did with the percussionist, but this bit here is very, very important. I went to Manual, and I inserted my kick and snare pattern to give me that groove. So let's have a listen to the groove and let's hear how it locks in with the other 2 parts. How cool is that? So let's go to details. We've got some humanization here, and we're messing with the feel. So although we've entered a manual kick and snare pattern, the drummer is still going to have some freedom to add a few extra kicks and a few extra snares to keep things interesting and keep it sounding live. That's one of the most beautiful things about the Logic session players, the way in which these session players adapt and create grooves that aren't too rigid but feel like real players. Now over here, let's open up the drum kit. And I've made a couple of adjustments to the drum kit. I've gone for the sunset snare, and I've tuned my snare up by 3 semitones and put full dampening on. The kick is pretty much the same, but for the cymbals, I took out 12 dB and I reduced the volume of the hi-hat as well. Okay, so as we continue to build up the rhythm section, the next part we're going to add is our session bass player. And of course, what we do, we come up to create new track. This time we select bass. Now the bass option we've gone for is a disco slap, and that one works perfectly for the groove that we're about to create. Now as for the bass instrument itself, the option right here is modern, and I'd say this represents a Music Man Stingray bass, which is one of the all-time classic basses for slap technique. We're going to run with these preset settings right here, which again work really well for this particular groove. So let's open up our dashboard right here. We've got disco slap here. Under preset, we've got 8-wheel legend, and these are our settings. In terms of our follow rhythm, we're following the rhythm of the drum kit. We're not following the rhythm of the chords. Now talking about chords, if you have a look at the top here, I can't stress enough how important it is that you create chord progression that makes sense. If you really want to learn how to do this, check out my video on the chord track where I go into far more detail. But back to the bass, these are my settings right here. We're on a 4-string bass with a low E rather than a low B, which would be a 5-string bass. Also, I've set my swing to 60%, so it's still swinging and it's slightly different to the drummer, and that's because not everyone's going to groove in exactly the same way. Let's go to details. Whereas we'd sometimes see double stop down here, we've got buzz trills, and that's set to 84. In terms of slides, I haven't got any slides in, but what we're going to do is we're going to play it through without slides, and then we're going to introduce some slides. Humanize, just a slight touch of humanization, 10%. In terms of feel, tempo standard, nothing on manual. So let's now hear how the electric piano, the percussionist, the drummer, and the bass player lock in together. Now we're going to introduce some slides, about 10%. Let's try that. Yeah, that sounds really good. Now, before we move on to adding the extra parts, let's just clarify a couple of things. Let's go back to the drums and percussion. As you can see over here, my drums and my percussion are going through to my drum bus. And on my drum bus, I've got a couple of important plugins right here. Let's switch these in. These are from Waves, and these are responsible for creating the sound that you're hearing. We're not talking about the playing, we're talking about the sound. So let's bypass these two. Also on the bass channel, we've got this one right here, CLA Bass, also from Waves. Let's bypass that. And now let's have a listen to what we've got without these processing our signal. It really is so important that you use the right processors and tools to achieve the sound you're looking for. We're not talking about the fantastic playing styles of these awesome Logic session players. We're talking about sound. Anyway, let's move on to the next session player. So our next Logic session player is our session keyboard player. So once again, we create a new track, we come to session players, and we choose keyboard player. And for this player, we're going for block chords. Here's our dashboard, and these are the settings I've gone for. Now, if you haven't seen my video on the Logic session keyboard player yet, make sure you check that one out, because I go into a lot more detail on how to get the most out of this particular session player. Also, if you hop over to Patreon, I do a deep dive on all of the session players in a 35-minute video, which you can access over there right now. Go to patreon.com/MTTC. Check that one out. But for now, our preset is the jukebox ballad. Our complexity and intensity sliders are pretty low down. I've got both left and right hands spread out quite a bit. You'll notice as well that I've got no swing on this one, and I'll show you why. Instead of 16ths, we've got 8ths just here, and under the follow rhythm section, we'll be following the drum kit, and we've got steady 8ths switched on. So let's have a listen with steady 8ths switched off, and if we're not following the rhythm of the kit. Okay, let's switch on steady 8ths, and now let's follow the drums. Okay, we're using pattern number 1 because it's a real simple pattern. The other thing I want to show you right here is the piano. Let's pull up the actual piano we're using. Out of the 4 different pianos at our disposal, we're using the vintage upright. So what I'm going to do right now is switch in stereo mic B and mono mic. I want a more fuller sound, so let's play it back and then switch these in. Yeah, I'm feeling that. So let's hear how this is working, given the fact that we haven't got any swing going on and the other instruments have got swing. So let's bring in our electric piano. Let's bring in some percussion, and also I'm going to bring in one of my guest players, a guitar from Output Arcade, and this one comes from the 70s suite and it's called Funky Wah. Definitely one to check out. Links will be in the description for everything I've covered here, the Waves plugins, and for Arcade for you to try them out completely free of charge. Don't forget links to my Patreon as well. So let's have a listen to how this fits together, given that there isn't any swing on the piano. It fits just nicely. So what I'm going to do now is bring in the other guest players. We'll build up the picture and then we'll play through the entire production and call it a wrap. Okay, so have a listen to our guest players. We've got some horns, we've got 4 guitar parts, and then we've got some vocals, but I'm only going to play you one part of the vocals. I'll play the rest later. Let's have a quick listen to these with just the electric piano, the drums and percussion. Okay, so let me tell you what's going on here. First of all, the horns are coming from the fantastic Output Arcade. The suite or the line we're using is Cool Cats. And to add some extra bite to these horns, I've added Logic's fantastic Chroma Glow distortion plugin. If you haven't seen the video I've done on that, please make sure you check that one out. A link will be above as well as in the description. Okay, now for the guitars, we've got 4 guitar parts coming through. And once again, they're coming from Arcade, the 70s line, the Funky Wah preset, but also to give them that extra flavor, I'm sending them through this fantastic Waves plugin, the Waves CLA Guitars, which does a fantastic job in pulling all of the guitars together so they fit perfectly into the rhythm section, but also add to the special sauce. And down here, we've got some vocals. And once again, these vocals are coming from Arcade. Suite or line this one's drawn from is Jukebox. The patch is Miss Loyal. All of my vocals are going through a bus and they're passing through these 2 fantastic Waves plugins, the fantastic Silk vocal processor and the awesome CLA Vocals suite. I've done a video on these 2 incredible processors. Make sure you check these out. Finally, what I'm going to do is play a section of this and show you what's going on the master bus. Right here on the master bus, I've got my StudioVerse audio effects plugin with a full suite of processors to give me that big sound. I've loaded up my own special Warm Fusion Master, which contains all of these. Check out my video on the Wave StudioVerse tools to find out more. But like I said, what I want to do is play you a section of this with StudioVerse engaged, bypassed, and then re-engaged so you can hear what this thing's actually doing. Wow, that's the difference great plugins make on your productions. Anyway, it's time for me to play out, and it's been an absolute pleasure sharing once again more things I'm discovering about these fantastic tools in Logic 11. If you found value in this video, do remember to give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment. It really is lovely to hear from you all. Don't forget to support my work as well on Patreon. And as usual, this Logic project will be uploaded for you to download and explore and experiment with right there over on Patreon, patreon.com/MTTC. So until next time, I'm Deuce, I'm out. Peace.